we've got a guy called Grant Harold here, and Grant Harold is a real-life butler. I would be interested to find out who actually has butlers these days. Apparently, there are quite a few different types of folk that still have butlers.
Yeah, who becomes a butler?
Yeah, who becomes a butler, and is being a butler in the 21st century like being Carson or
Mr.
Alfred?
Hudson.
Yeah, Mr. Hudson or Mr. Hobson, and all the places where we've seen films and what have you. If it's anything like that, so Grant's here. And, well, first of all, let me set you up. How are you? All right?
I'm very well, thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, thanks for not calling me sir. Grant is a former royal butler and a member of the royal household of their Royal Highnesses, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall. His duties also included butlering for the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and Prince Henry of Wales. Grant now runs the Royal School of Etiquette and Butlers at Blenheim Palace with HRH Princess Katrina, for whom he also acts as a personal aide. As the name suggests, the school holds courses on how to be a butler, and Grant runs workshops on how to host the perfect afternoon tea party. Well, now, are contemporary butlers anything like those butlers of old, and do you still use the same language and the same sense of deportment and grace and all of that?
It's interesting because butlers today, it's almost a kind of role you go into. I always see it as acting. Because when you put on that uniform and you walk into that room, you go into the kind of persona. You act and behave in a certain way that you wouldn't in private.
And does it become a natural thing for you?
Well, I've been told that I'm very good at it. I've become very natural. Apparently, even at home, I suddenly, if somebody walks in, I stand up and I go and find the drinks tray and, stand to bring the napkins in and the canopies and things. It does. I think after a couple of years, you get used to it and it does become second nature. And it's something, as I see it as a kind of form of acting because it's not really you.
Now, as a butler to, let's say, the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall, how would your day run when you're looking after them?
It's structured because from the minute you get up to the minute you go to bed, you have various duties that you have to perform. So as a butler, you'd be doing things like laying up breakfast, you'd lay up a lunch, you'd lay up the dinner, you'd do an afternoon tea.
Do you have to wake up? Let's not specify here, but do you have to wake up the person you're working for or the couple you're working for? Do you wake them up and say, here's breakfast, or do they wake up first? I mean, what's the sequence?
It depends. Again, it's up to you. With your butler, you can have me butlering for you and you could say, right, Grant, I want to be woken up at 7 o'clock with a coffee and the Times.
Right.
And I would be there to do that. Some people don't like that. Some people still like their kind of privacy, so they won't do that. And it'll be a case of you'll know what time they get up at, and that's the point when you come down and that's when you say good morning.
So what about the rest of your day? So once breakfast is done, then what happens?
Once breakfast is out the way, it's tidying it up. Well, you're trying to clear it away. You might have visitors coming to see the people that you're looking after. You might then have 11s, which we know is at 11 o'clock,
right,
which is coffee and biscuits.
Yeah.
I can tell by that look, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
11s, oh, we have 11s here.
Fantastic.
Well, once we get here at 2.
Then you'll be focusing on lunch, because then there's laying up for the lunch. There's all the prep to be done for a meal, because it's making sure the kitchen's got everything they need. It's then clearing it away. And at the same time, if you're valeting for the people or the person, you've then got to go upstairs, make sure the clothes are taken away, the fresh clothes are put out, the clothes are ironed, washed, laundered. Keep an eye on all the stocks in the meantime.
So might you help choose somebody's clothes for the day?
I've been asked to do that, never again.
Why?
Well, it was actually, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying this, it was when I was at Woburn Abbey for the late Duke of Bedford. And I remember one occasion the Dowager Duchess Henrietta Tiax, who in her day was a debutante and all the rest of it, and quite a wonderful character. She was been on television a few times. And I remember the butler on duty was off. I was asked if I could help dress him. And I thought, well, this is easy. This can't be difficult. So, of course, I went through all the different things and I was finding colours that I quite liked. And the next day I said, how did everything go? And Lady T turned around and said, oh, it was wonderful. She said, but could I ask the next time, maybe don't dress him like a clown?
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Oh, no.
So I did learn the things that you don't do in ways not to dress people.
What about the way you address do you call them the master or the mistress or anything like that? And do you have to say sir and madam and all of that?
Well, let's say if you're talking about a royal, it'd be your Royal Highness.
Right.
So when you see them for the first time, you would do a nod of the head or a curtsy. And then you say good morning or good afternoon, Your Royal Highness. And then after that, you only say it once, and then it's sir or ma'am.
Who wants a butler now? And what kind of butler are they looking for? Do they know what they're looking for?
It's interesting because you've still got the aristocracy, the old-fashioned aristocracy, your dukes and your duchesses and your royals are all...
But they're all poor now, aren't they?
Well, they're getting there. But the houses that are taking them on more are, dare I say, lottery winners, people that come into money. There's butlers, people that will go and look after people that win the lottery, probably keep them right. That's the role of a butler as well, is helping keep people, teaching them the correct way of doing things.
Now, tell me what you do there at Blenheim Palace. You're training people to become butlers. And when we're talking about butlers, we're talking about females as well, aren't we?
We are, absolutely. I mean, I've trained a few females because, we live in a time now when people want a female butler rather
And
than
they
a
earn
male
the same
butler.
money?
They'll earn the same as the male butler. They might get asked to do a bit more of the nannying side of things, which can happen. I've been asked, but I think for a female butler, it's easier.
And then how do you start? Where do you start? Do you teach them how to walk, how to hold, how to be? Do you teach them vocab?
You've summed it up, because for me, the really important part to get is about how to behave, how to act, how to walk, the deportment, the etiquette, because people don't understand that a butler is a gentleman's gentleman, and they need to understand what that gentleman or lady might require. So we need to train them how to drink the coffee, drink the tea, how to sit, how to stand, how to walk, put the books on the head to learn about the balance, about the correct way to walk. We'd cover all those kind of things, and it's important so that we can make them the best that they can be.
And who wants to be a butler these days? What kind of backgrounds do they come from?
It's extraordinary. We've had so many different backgrounds. We've had people like myself who, for some mad reason, when they were youngsters, decided they want to go into the profession, to people that just want a career change. They've got fantastic careers, and they suddenly wake up and think, actually, I want to go and be Lord Granton's butler.
I would think, and I don't mean this disrespectfully in any way, but somebody behaving in that way as a butler would might make some people, especially perhaps, as you said earlier, new money, feel uncomfortable. And actually what maybe contemporary folk are looking for is not necessarily a butler, more of a PA, more of a kind of a friend, really, not somebody who's going to kowtow and say, yes, sir, no, sir, and maybe even somebody that might disagree with them once in a while.
It does happen. You do take on that kind of role where you become almost, I want to say, their best friend, but you've got to be a bit careful, because there is a line that everyone talks about you don't cross. Now, reality is it does get crossed often, because sometimes these families do take you under their wing, they trust you, you do kind of become very much part of the family, and you've got to know when to come out of that. So in front of other people, you know that, for example, if I'm sitting down with them in a room chatting about something, if someone comes in the room, I'll suddenly stand up and go back into my role as a butler.
Relating butler school to X Factor or something like that, what would make them not get to the final?
I think you've got to kind of not mind being asked to do things. So if they want you to go and pick up, can I say, the dog poo, or if they want you, you can't think, oh, I'm too good for that. And I can honestly say, again, there's people that I've worked with who they would do it themselves. And this is what I'm trying to say, is that whatever you go and ask the staff to do, as long as you would do it yourself, that's an important message to get across to them, and for them to understand that, and then you kind of then don't see it as beyond you kind of thing.
How many butlers are you making or knocking out a year there?
Roughly, there's probably about 20 or so, but
they go around the world, do
they'll
they?
go around the world. I mean, most butlers want to be based in the UK, which I understand, but then again, if they're in it to make the money, then it's true that going overseas is where you'll make the money.
And the money will depend on who you're working for.
The money, and then that goes back to, it might not be the kind of job that you want, because you could end up working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're happy with that and you've got no commitments, then go for it.
Everything you ever wanted to know about being a butler and butler school from Harold Grant. Really nice to meet you. See you again. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Steve.
It was great.
Thank you very much.
Now, I wonder if you'd like to bring in the drinks.
Absolutely. Where's the tracer?
Thanks for downloading Steve Wright's Big Guests. Join Steve and the team weekdays from 2 on 88 to 91 FM, BBC Radio 2.